Okay, so we've got to talk about this whole delivery and Ecom Express thing. It's
Yeah.
like one of those things you see while scrolling through the news, and you're just like, wait, hold on.
What?
What just happened? You know, delivery, like, it feels like every other delivery van in India is blue and white,
Yeah.
and now they've gone and bought Ecom Express.
Yeah, they did.
And it wasn't just a small acquisition either. It's like almost feel of it.
Pretty much. Yeah, it
Yeah.
feels like things are changing in the world of getting stuff delivered.
Totally. And that's what we're diving deep into today. Like, what does this actually mean for, well, everyone?
Exactly.
So for anyone who needs a quick recap, Delivery burst onto the scene back in 2011, bringing this, fresh, new, tech-driven approach to logistics. They went public a couple of years ago. And since then, it's like they're on a shopping spree, picking up different companies left and right, like adding pieces to their big logistics puzzle.
Yeah.
Then you've got Ecom Express. They started around the same time, 2012, and they were a serious contender. I mean, they were handling deliveries for tons of businesses.
I get this. They were actually about to launch a pretty big IPO, like in the range of $700 million.
Yeah, that's not insignificant. For those who aren't familiar with the term IPO, it stands for Initial Public Offering. It's basically when a private company decides to sell shares to the public for the first time.
Right.
It's a way for them to raise a lot of money.
Exactly. And the fact that Ecom Express was aiming for a $700 million IPO tells you a lot about,
Their ambition.
Exactly. Like
Yeah.
they weren't just some small operation. They had a huge network. They were moving tons of stuff all over India.
Yeah.
So this next part is what's so crazy.
Yeah.
Delivery swooped in and acquired a whopping 99.4% of Ecom Express
Wow.
for 4,407 crore rupees, which if you do the math is about $169.5 million.
Yeah.
That's a huge difference. Like think about it. A company that was on track for a $700 million IPO is now being bought out for less than a quarter of that.
It's pretty wild, right?
Yeah, this doesn't feel like a typical, merger. It feels like a total power shift in the entire industry. Absolutely. And when you look at the bigger picture, I think this kind of acquisition, especially at a price that's so much lower than their IPO target, it makes you wonder what was going on behind the scenes with Ecom Express.
Yeah. Yeah.
Was their position in the market maybe not as strong as everyone thought?
Right. It's a good question. So that's what I want to explore. Like, what would cause a company that was so close to this huge $700 million IPO to suddenly end up in what some are calling a distressed sale?
Yeah.
It's like, you're training to climb Mount Everest, you're almost at the top, and then you just decide to sell all your gear for like pennies on the dollar.
Right.
Something must have gone wrong.
Yeah, you don't just walk away from that kind of opportunity unless something's up.
Exactly. So what are some of the things that might have happened?
Well, the term distress sale usually means the company was facing some serious financial pressure.
Okay.
And you have to remember that the e-commerce logistics world, it's all about growing really, really fast.
Right.
And to do that, you need to spend a lot of money up front, building warehouses, buying delivery trucks, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So it's possible Ecom Express maybe overextended themselves. They might have expanded into too many areas too quickly. And that could have led to higher costs than they expected. And those costs might not have been balanced out by enough revenue growth.
Yep.
So their profits might have taken a hit.
So basically, maybe they were spending more than they were making.
Yeah, possibly.
Uh.
And that could have made potential investors nervous when Ecom Express was trying to do their IPO.
Makes sense. And that could explain why they ended up being acquired for a lot less than they initially hoped for.
Right, because the market might have started to see them as a riskier investment.
Yeah. Okay. So here's something I find interesting. Ecom Express actually brought in a lot of revenue last year,
Oh, yeah,
like 2,607 crore rupees, which is a lot of money.
it is a lot.
And their revenue even went up a little bit from the previous year. So on the surface, it seems like they were doing okay.
Right. But this is where it's important to understand the difference between revenue and profit.
Okay.
Revenue is just the total amount of money a company brings in,
Right.
but profit is what's left over after you subtract all your expenses, like the cost of running the business. So a company can have a lot of revenue, but still not be making any profit.
So you're saying Ecom Express might have had a lot of sales, but they weren't actually making much money from those sales.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the fact that they got acquired, even though they had all this revenue, suggests that their profit, or maybe the potential for future profit, was a big concern.
I see. So they might have been growing really fast, but not in a sustainable way.
Right.
And that's where delivery comes in.
Exactly. They're the big player with deep pockets.
And it seems like they saw this as an opportunity,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
not just to take out a competitor, but to buy a company that might have been struggling a bit.
It's a smart move from a business standpoint.
Totally. Like a
Yeah.
power play.
Yeah.
So for all of us out there who are, eagerly awaiting our next online delivery. Yeah.
What does this merger actually mean for us? Will our packages finally arrive on time?
Right.
Will delivery fees go down? Give us the real scoop.
Well, the honest answer is it's complicated.
Okay.
On the one hand, you've now got this combined operation with Delivery and Ecom Express. So that means a much bigger infrastructure, more delivery vans, more warehouses, a wider network all across the country.
Right.
And theoretically, all of that could lead to faster deliveries, especially in areas where one of the companies might have had a stronger presence before.
So maybe some of us will see our packages sooner.
Yeah.
That's a plus?
Potentially,
Yeah.
yeah. But there's a flip side. We also have to consider that there's now less competition in the market.
Right.
And when that happens, companies don't have to fight as hard for customers by offering lower prices.
So you're saying even though deliveries might get faster, it's possible that prices could actually go up?
It's a possibility.
Right.
It's economics 101. Less competition often leads to higher prices.
Okay, so maybe faster deliveries, but not necessarily cheaper.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
What about the technology side? Both of these companies have invested a lot in tech. Could this merger lead to some cool new innovations? Like maybe we'll finally get those drone deliveries everyone's been talking about.
That's certainly possible. Both Delivery and Ecom Express have been using technology to make their logistics operations more efficient.
Right.
They've got those fancy route planning algorithms, warehouse management systems, and last-mile delivery solutions.
Right.
So if they can successfully combine all their tech expertise, that could lead to even more innovation and faster deliveries down the line.
Okay.
But it's important to remember that merging the tech systems from two separate companies can be tricky.
Right.
It's not always a smooth process.
So to recap, we've got Delivery, the tech-savvy leader in the industry, acquiring Ecom Express, a company that was about to go public, but maybe ran into some roadblocks along the way.
Yeah.
It seems like Ecom Express had great revenue, but might have been struggling with profitability, which led to this acquisition at a much lower price than they were hoping for. And for us as consumers, we might see some benefits like faster deliveries, but we also need to be prepared for the possibility of higher prices.
Exactly. It's a trade-off.
And it all comes back to this idea that revenue isn't everything.
Definitely.
A company can be bringing in tons of money, but if they're not managing their costs effectively and making a profit, it's not sustainable in the long run.
It's a good reminder for all of us.
Absolutely. It really makes you think about what's going on beneath the surface in different industries.
Yeah.
Like this whole situation with Ecom Express needing what one of our sources called an exit strategy. It makes you wonder what other companies out there might be closer than we think to needing their own exit strategy.
That's a great point.
We often focus on the companies that are doing really well, but what about the ones that are quietly struggling?
Right.
It's a reminder to look beyond the headlines and think about the bigger picture.
Absolutely. So sometimes the most stable-looking industries are actually the ones that are ripe for disruption.
Exactly. So that's something for everyone to think about as we wrap up today's deep dive. What seemingly stable industries might be on the verge of some big changes?
Yeah, it's a question worth pondering.
For sure.
Because the business world is always evolving.
Yeah.
And you never know what surprises might be around the corner.
Well said. And on that note, thanks for joining us for another deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure.
Until next time.
See you then.
Bye.